of course, the next conversation is still here in Nigeria. There are reports that the top officials of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria have been suspended and their units disbanded following the All Eyes on the Judiciary billboards, which surfaced in Abuja and a few other states across the country. Now, according to a statement released by the Director General Olalekan Fadolapo, the Director and Deputy Director of the Advertising Standards Panel of the Council was suspended to enable unprejudiced investigation of the issue.
He said that the officials failed to diligently exercise their gatekeeping functions. Recall that the All Eyes on the Judiciary billboards have been trending on social media for some days as the date of judgment in the presidential election petition draws close. This morning, we're joined by youth activist Rinu Oduala. Good morning, Rinu. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
We're also joined by Demola Olarewaju, who's a member of the PDP. Demola, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. All right, we'd like you to please unmute your device, Mr. Olarewaju. Now, back to you, Rinu. Whilst we're reviewing the papers this morning, we had Mr. Jide Ojo join us to look through the front pages of the newspapers, and we talked about the story, All Eyes on the Judiciary, and he referred to it as, mounting pressure on the judiciary in some measure. Do you agree with this, Rinu?
I disagree very much, and I would have loved to tell him, to his face, but unfortunately, he had to go off. I think that the All Eyes on the Judiciary Board are not putting pressure on the judiciary. The billboards did not implicate, the billboards did not accuse, the billboards merely talked about the importance of the judicial role. They are also a call for transparency and accountability, and do not infringe on anyone's rights. It is a basic principle in the world that eyes must be on the wheel of justice. And when justice is delivered, it must have been seen to be just. I think that you were reading out the news when the ACON Regulatory Board said that the advertisement is considered a blackmail, it's capable of instigating public unrest and all of that. I would say that ACON is intentionally misusing words to reframe democratic engagement as a criminal act. Citizens in a democracy are allowed to scrutinize their judges, they are allowed to scrutinize their lawmakers, as long as the billboards do not pass judgment or speculate on the outcomes. Citizens are not prevented from expressing general sentiments in a manner that concerns them. And Mr. Ojo said that, political parties went ahead and put up billboards. I didn't see the name of any political party on that billboard. And the only thing that billboard said was, all eyes on the judiciary. I think that if ARCO sees it as blackmail, for me, I see it as an attempt to shield the judiciary from scrutiny. But in a society where lack of transparency and accountability can lead Nigerians to question the impartiality of the tribunal process. And a lot of people have been using terms like they are trying to bully, just like Mr. Ojo, they are annoying the judiciary, they are intimidating judiciary. All of these terms are hyperbolic. The eyes of citizens on the judiciary can definitely not be annoying to the justices, because the role of the judiciary is to act without fear and favor. And being aware that our eyes are on them is not necessarily a form of blackmail, but a reminder of their duty. I find it hard, to be honest, and this case has been particularly perturbing. I find it hard to believe that our esteemed justices, who they maintain their composure amidst tough times and tough challenges, will be disturbed by citizen activism. So the real question is, who is truly threatened by this billboard? Is it the judiciary, is it the citizens, or the current government?
All right, Demola, let's bring you in. The narrative, of course, by some people that I read on Twitter or X, I don't know which it is, of course, is saying that, the all eyes on judiciary, if you also look at it, it also says all eyes on the election tribunal judges, that it seems to be instigating threats, towards these persons if judgment doesn't go the way that a certain group of people are expecting it to go. I've seen that narrative being pushed, and of course, you can see also certain tweets that have also been put out, by people nobody knows who they are, making subtle threats here and there. So, Demola, do you think that the Nigerian government has a point, in saying that the All Eyes on Judiciary hashtag and the billboards might actually be threatening?
Well, I think we need to first make it clear that The only entity that has threatened the judiciary has been the APC since 2015. Remember, under the APC regime of Muhammadu Buhari, you had the home of judges invaded um, by the DSS. Under them, also, you had the CJN. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, you had a CJN who was removed in the person of His Lordship Justice Walter Onoge. Now, as Reno has explained, there is a maxim in law that justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to have been done. And if justice must be seen to have been done, then it is right for all eyes to be on the judiciary. I don't see any reason why anyone should be threatened by the message, all eyes on the judiciary. In fact, the APC, which is, I mean, even by the declared figures of INEC, Bola Tinubu scored 36%, about 36 point something percent, 37% of the votes. Now, if this is tried in courts and in a transparent manner, it is established that he won that election as INEC declared, then it is credibility to him and it enhances his political legitimacy in the eyes of Nigerians whose eyes are on the judiciary. But when you start saying that people should take their eyes away from the judiciary, or you are not happy with the message of all eyes on the judiciary, whether for one side or the other, I think that that is where the problem is coming from. And there is an historical perspective to this. If I can just take a minute to explain this, that even under various military regimes, the legislative arm of government, the executive arm of government will usually dissolve. The legislative arm will be dissolved, they will dissolve the parliament, and then they will dissolve the executive. They will constitute their own military ruling council. But nobody ever dared tamper with the judiciary. Nobody. What they would do was that they will suspend certain aspects of the constitution and put in place decrees. Decree 1, Decree 2, Decree 3, Decree 4, all the way. It is on the basis of those decrees that the judges would then make rulings. So activists like Ganifa Weyemi will go to court and say that, oh, it is illegal for so person, Muhammadu Buhari, when he was off, go on to be the head of state. But the judge would interpret, not on the basis of the constitution, which some parts have been suspended, they would interpret the law on the basis of the decree and say by decree 1, Jacobo Gowon can be. So even the military made sure that it was the law that was changed, but the judiciary was left intact. The judiciary's independence has always been established. That is why you see whenever any president comes in, they tamper with the civil service, they tamper with the military, but nobody tampers with the judiciary. So it is very, very important that the judiciary should not be allowed to compromise itself under this APC regime. I have no idea of those who are behind the billboards, but I think it is absolutely in line. It is patriotic. In fact, what is unpatriotic is to be saying that people should take their eyes away from the judiciary. Because look, the judiciary is the creation of the people. If there are no people, if the people are not interested in justice, then there is no point having a judiciary. So the judiciary exists as a function of democracy. And I think APC should be more, proactive in guarding this democracy and establishing the independence of the judiciary. They should, in other words, let the judiciary breathe.
All right, let's talk some more as to why this conversation or why that hashtag needed to even come up in the first place. And I'll come back to you, Renu. You've closely followed and monitored the Election Petition Tribunal. Take us through what you think are the reasons for this hashtag to have come out in the first place. And would you say that you've been pleased by how the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has been run so far?
Thank you very much for answering that question. I think that the Presidential Tribunal process is a matter that is sub judice, so it's not a matter that can be discussed extensively. However, to the question of how this hashtag came to be, I need us to remind ourselves that Nigerians have been through a lot in the last 8 to 9 years under the administration of the APC. Poverty, insecurity, poor leadership, corruption, police brutality, name it. All of this have also, contributed to the shocking low levels of citizen engagement in this country. The voter turnout in a country of over 200 million people is frightening. Less than 30% people turn out to vote this year. That cannot be described as a celebration of democracy. Now, in a context where many of them feel so disengaged, and that people have chosen to come up with a hashtag and saying all eyes on the judiciary, how can keeping an eye on the judiciary now be regarded as a threat? Should we not be seeing this as an encouragement for our democracy, that in the midst of renewed hopelessness, many are choosing to put their faith and their eyes in the judiciary. Also, in a time where there is a wave of coups sweeping across West Africa, Nigerians are actively fighting for democracy. Nigerians, despite all odds, are saying that democracy must count. I think that we should be proud of Nigerians for their support towards democracy, which this hashtag even though democratic actors and institutions seem to be failing them. The Billboard messages are straightforward, drawing attention to the judiciary. They never said any particular verdict should be given. They never threatened to harm the esteemed justices and their reputation. I think that even our respected judiciary should appreciate the rare attention that Nigerians are paying to their vital role and incredible work. They're paying attention to our hardworking judges who are showing exceptional courage in upholding democracy. So that's for it for me. The billboards are affirmation, they're not an affront, because the basic principle of social justice is about the people. And at the end, or in the end, transparency or integrity should have no reason to fear scrutiny. If a man's house is in order, then what do we have to fear? Also, please, if I have the time, I would like to remind us that we've had times where there were no eyes on the judiciary. And that has led to the integrity of the judiciary being questioned today. Since our democracy in 1999, two arms of the government have not delivered the promise of democracy to Nigerians. Even the judiciary itself, which is supposed to be the hope of the common man, has immersed itself in politics. When citizens removed their eyes from the judiciary, we saw terrible things, my sister. We saw conflicting governments at the Court of Appeal, so much that the Supreme Court had to intervene. We saw the Nigerian Supreme Court itself overturn a judgment on technicalities to favor Senator Ahmed Lawan, who never participated in legitimate primaries for the Senate race in Yobe State. It is even public knowledge that his current Senate president did not also participate in the primaries, yet he's senator today. When there were no eyes on the judiciary, the Senator Bukachua Sprouse, who was head of the nation's second highest court that had over 20 divisions, I guess, and over 70 justices under her leadership, was using her position as appeal court president to favor politicians, awarding judgments in favor of her spouse friends. Our husband called her out because there were no eyes on the judiciary. Till today, because there are no eyes on the judiciary, innocent people are spending years in jail because there are no accountability mechanisms for the judges. This has led to loss of faith in the judicial system. It has made a mockery of the system that is widely perceived as the last hope of the common man. The common man in the society are the first category of people that the judiciary is supposed to serve because they are vulnerable. Yet these people in Nigeria have had their cases delayed for years. They are wasting their life in the justice system. They have been outpriced. Our court proceedings have now become cash and carry for the rich. Justice have now become, to the highest bidder. So how is it unacceptable today to say that all eyes on the judiciary? Why are we here today debating so much over the fact that much is being expected from the judiciary to sustain the rule of law, to sustain democracy? What should our eyes be? I mean, you and I. Where should our eyes be, if not on the judiciary, in the tribunal of one of the most contested elections in our democratic history? Every Nigerian today must shine their eyes at the judiciary. Absolutely, even if NEPA take light, to use torchlight or even candle to shine light on and for the judiciary.
All
so
right.
that they can
I want to bring back.
Yeah,
absolutely. I want to bring back Demola here. I'm just seeing a tweet now by Spotlight Abbey. And of course, the tweet, was posted 14 hours ago. Is asking who is ready for another 1 million man march. And of course, with the hashtag all eyes on the judiciary and, other things. So I want to ask, yes, there's obviously, of course, meant to be the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and all of that here in Nigeria. But you spoke earlier about, the justice must be done and, of course, must be seen to be done. Do you think that that's also a two-sided argument? Because if there's a group of people who, of course, have decided to focus on the judiciary, and of course, it's now been interpreted as seemingly threatening the judiciary, that, there is a possibility of a breakdown of law and order. There's talks about a 1 million man march and stuff like that. And then there's other people, of course, who are still involved. There are people who voted for the current administration, no doubt. They also, will be focused on the judiciary, hoping that justice will be served in their favor, to keep the government in office, I believe. So do you then see where there might be a little, friction here, with two sides expecting the justices to say what is true, or of course to give justice to, in their favor. Is there a possibility of a crisis here, Demola?
Well, the courts are set up specifically to deal with crisis. Okay, that's why you have two litigants in court most of the time, or you have three parties, or you have four parties. The courts are set up to handle pressure. The courts are there basically to adjudicate on matters in accordance with the law and without regard to anybody, without recourse to whether the crowd is outside, without recourse to whether the military is somewhere, without recourse to anything. Okay, that is what must happen. Now, on this specific matter, which is what has led to the all eyes on the judiciary, it is the most important part of a democracy, which is the right of the people to free and fair election. That is for them to vote for their leaders and for those leaders to act in service of the people on the basis of the votes that brought them into office. Because if you do not have free and fair elections, then you have breached the most fundamental principle of democracy, and leaders will not act in service of the people because they do not owe their being in office to the people. With every election, there are three phases. There's the pre-election phase, where you have, campaigns, where you have jingles, where you have all that. There's that phase. Then there's the election phase, which is where you deploy your agents to the field, you set up your structure, you monitor results from the polling unit to the ward level to the all the way till the election, till the winner is announced. Now, after the election, there is the post-election phase, which is the phase that we are in now, and that's where people are interested in this matter. People have cast their votes. Okay, you said people should go to court. People are in court now, and people want to know the outcome of that matter. It is only natural. You can't tell people to tune out from that process. This is why, one of the parties in this matter, the People's Democratic Party and Atiku Abubakar, they brought up this issue and said, let the judges allow cameras into the court. People see what is going on. People voted. It's a part of the electionary phase. And I think we should continue to emphasize that in the conversation. People are not saying all eyes on the judiciary for a matter, between somebody who took somebody's wife, or between a divorce between someone and someone. No. People are saying all eyes on the judiciary as a matter of the go-to-court aspect of the electioneering. So as far as the election is concerned, it is not over until it is over.
All right.
And Nigerians
Demola, kindly hold on.
To pay attention.
Yeah.
In fact, we should, yes, okay.
Kindly hold on. I just want to ask Renu a question. Renu, what happens, or what do you foresee happens if justice, according to the election tribunal judges, doesn't go in the way that these persons are expecting? What do you think happens next?
I think that when you say these persons, you're saying Nigerians.
Yeah, Nigerians.
As of this moment, expect, nor should they, that the tribunal judgment should be influenced by anything other than the evidence and the law, just as Demola said. Again, justice must be done, and also to be seen that it must be done. That's my own point. Nobody is expecting that the judges should judge based on emotions or mudslinging or any other word that you want to call it. All judgments from the tribunals must be influenced by the evidence and by the law, and must be seen that is by the law. I just want to also add, on this Billboards pulling down issue, that in this same country, we've seen fuel prices going up, we've seen exchange rates going up, we've seen cost of living going up. That can the APC please quickly bring this down as quickly as it brought down the Billboards? Because it seems like the only thing that is not an issue, in this government is appointing criminals into political offices. It was in this same country that prominent members of the APC marched freely on our streets with placards with divisive, tribalistic, and inciting messages on them that actually led to public unrest in the presidential and gubernatorial elections. No one was arrested. The placards were not destroyed. If the government is sincere about ensuring peace and safety, let them start with their own ranks. And let me be very clear. I condemn any direct threat to our judiciary esteemed members. Their safety and their well-being should always be a priority. And also, while dealing with this, we must start with the blatant threats and subsequent violence instigated by partisan members and loyalists of the APC who incited violence during the 2023 elections. Let's not forget that elections claimed over 70 innocent lives. And the tenet is simple. Every citizen should be held to the same standard so that we don't set a precedent where some animals are more equal than the others. Now they removed the billboards, but here we are talking about it, amplifying the message. Removing the billboards does not remove my eyes from the judiciary. In fact, as a young person, my eyes have never been as glued to the judiciary as now. You can't silence an idea whose time has come, because Nigerians have chosen to occupy the highest public in the office. Let that office breathe. Let the office of the citizen breathe. And Nigerians are saying there can be election without democracy, but there can't be democracy, right, without credible elections that are seen to be free and fair. You can kill the medium of message, you can kill the messenger, but you can never kill the message. Our democracy must count.
Let's speak to Demola now. And it's unfortunate that we do not have someone from the APC camp. We do hope that by tomorrow we'll be able to have a conversation with someone from the APC camp as well to hear what they think about this. But I'd like you to respond to this. When we're talking about a few weeks back, when they were at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, at the written address, the closing address of the APC, there were speculations about how a lot of people criticized the saying that there will be anarchy if judgment doesn't tilt in favor of the current administration. That wasn't the exact words. They said there will be anarchy in Nigeria if you nullify my elections, like something in that line. And a number of people called this a means of intimidating the judges, because it seemed they interpreted that this statement, or this line of closing, might in some way be made or said to lure judgment in favor of the All Progressives Congress. So in some measure, do you think, and I'm going to ask you again, we asked Renew this earlier, so do you think that there's some element of fairness to them saying that all of these is in some way putting pressure on the judiciary?
Well, we have to keep on explaining it, that the only place where pressure has come on the judiciary so far in this democratic experiment has been from the ruling APC. We've had the home of judges invaded under this APC regime. We've had, judges being put on trial, a lot being done. We've had the Chief Justice of Nigeria removed from office by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. That has happened under this government. So we should know where the threat to the judiciary is coming from. And that is why I said that let the judiciary breathe. They should let the judiciary breathe.